Welcome back, everybody, to episode 15 of Hotel Charlie. That's right, I'm your host with the most, everybody. We got the stacks on wax for you. This one's The Clash. It's called Rock the Casbah off of their album Combat Rock. Oh, I was so close to getting that intro in before the words started. We should try that again, but I'll worry about that next week. How you guys doing? Are you ready for another episode of Hotel Charlie? Another week has gone by since the last one came out, and I know how much you guys all love this show. So let's just get right into it. What did I do this week, you ask? What did I do? Well, I sat down on TikTok. I'm still unemployed, so usually my day goes from waking up around 2, making myself a cup of cappuccino, sitting on my phone from 2:30 to 4 in the morning, and then going to bed and doing it all again. But in that time frame, while I'm laying in bed watching TikTok, ready to try to fall asleep, even though we both know I'm not going to, I'll scroll through TikTok. I'll doom scroll on YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels, whatever I feel like doing that day. A new thing they've started doing is posting movies as TikToks. So an AI voice will show you like Dumb and Dumber and go, so a man named Lloyd found a briefcase from a woman and had to take it across the country to give it back. Anyway, so then you're basically watching a trailer for this movie. And I don't think it's copyright infringement because it's pushing people to go see that movie. For instance, I saw a clip of this guy stuck in a mudslide, stuck in his car after being struck by a mudslide, and he's frantically trying to get out of his car, and he's trying to think, what can I do? I'm only an ad salesman. I have no survival skills. What can I do? Luckily for him, he has an old folding chair for camping and a couple pieces of wire and some string. The man survives, digs himself out. Spoiler alert. Anyway, I saw a TikTok about it saying, like, there's a man stuck in a car. So I decided, hey, this movie looks pretty good. It's only 2 in the morning. I've got nothing to do tomorrow. It's on Amazon Prime. Sorry, there was a fuzz in my face. It's on Amazon Prime. Sure, I'll sign in and give it a watch. So I sat down and watched the entire movie. About 3 minutes in, and having seen the TikTok, I knew exactly how the movie was going to end. It's just this guy alone in a car. There's no way that he's going to die. He's either going to get saved by some stroke of luck, or he's going to dig himself out of there. I ended up being correct. I think the movie was called Detour. Go check it out on Amazon if you want to kill 2 hours and be disappointed. That movie stunk. The acting stunk. It's very difficult. Believe me, I went to film school. It's very difficult to write a movie, make a movie with just one character and make that guy, or like when you're relying on that guy that you pick to be a great actor. Because if that guy's a bad actor, well, then your movie just sucks. We can have an ensemble cast, a big high school reunion cast where one guy that is in the movie for 3 minutes is a bad actor. Okay, fine, we can put up with that. But when it's the only guy on the camera and he's going like, oh, and he's alone, so the writing has to be good too, because now they tell you in film school, show, don't tell. I'm watching this movie Detour. This guy's stuck in a car, and the whole time the movie's just him saying everything in his head out loud, but for the sake of the audience to know what's going on. So he wakes up and he goes, oh, I'm stuck in my car. It must have been a mudslide. Oh. And then he falls asleep and he wakes up and he looks at his phone and he goes, I just slept for 5 hours. Oh. And then he keeps falling asleep because the movie's trying to get an excuse of why to make time pass by. It was very boring, very poorly written, but it was exciting. And I'd rather watch a boring movie than nothing, because at least when you watch it, you're leaving with something. You know, you watch Fight Club, you watch The Usual Suspects, all these other film school movies that you have to watch to graduate. You're going to watch and go, wow, I left learning something. I left with a big twist. I watched Titanic. I'm so inspired by James Cameron. And then you watch a boring movie like this, and at least you're leaving with, well, I know not to do any of that stuff. Anyway, so that was my week. I'm pretty sure my old roommates back in Utah are holding the mail I still get sent there. I was texted by somebody saying, hey, I sent a wedding invitation about 2 months ago. Did you ever get it? And I go, no, I never got it. Did you know I moved back to Pennsylvania? She goes, no, I didn't know that. It must have gone to Utah. So then I called my friends. I said, hey, did I get any mail? And they said, we don't know. I'm like, well, don't you think if, I'm sorry I didn't leave a forwarding address, but wouldn't you think that if I got mail sent to you and we were friends and still are friends, but I lived with you for a year, you'd go, hey, I checked our mailbox. We're still getting mail from Harrison. This probably belongs to Harrison. We had a guy who just lived here named Harrison. He just left, so people probably just didn't know. Instead of saying that and like, hey, I'll Snapchat a picture of the mail just so you know, you still got your W-2, you could do your taxes. I guess they just went, Oh, it's mail for a guy that's not me? Okay. Frisbee, disc golf, whatever you do with that mail, just throwing it into the trash can. I'm like, hey, I'm aware I don't live there. I don't pay the rent, but could you please forward me that mail or at least take a picture of it? We're living in a technological era where you can do that sort of stuff now. I thought that was just something that ground my gears. Maybe that's not important to any of you, but once it happens to you, you'll be in the same boat as me and you'll go, wow, that actually is weird and annoying and kind of odd that happened. Let's take a drink of water before we get into the show. Is everybody ready for the show? We got a very important episode for you guys today because got a very big deal. You might have seen it in the title. I don't know how many of you know Saturday Night Live. I don't know how many of you know Mr. Joe Rogan. All these famous comedians, blah, blah, blah. Have you guys ever heard of a man named Shane Gillis? That's right, Shane Gillis, famous comedian, maybe the number one comedian right now, best-selling comic at the time. He is from Mechanicsburg, Pennsylvania, and for anyone who owns a map and looks at my house, you know, that's not too far away from where I grew up, where I still live now. He started doing comedy at the Harrisburg Comedy Zone. He went off and moved to Philadelphia, moved to New York, did a bunch of cocaine, moved down to Austin to save money on taxes. No one's mad at that guy, by the way, for not paying his taxes. You hear all these stories. Oh, Logan Paul has a house in Cuba, so he doesn't have to pay taxes. Blah, blah, blah. All these people are like, hey, you know, any way to save a buck, right? But then Elon Musk does it. Trump does it. Goes, oh, I didn't move away. I just did a tax loophole. I bet against my own stock and got a loan from a bank. That way I didn't have to take a paycheck, and then everyone goes, we don't like that. We don't like you finding loopholes. If you're going to save money on taxes, you at least have to live in a shithole like Florida. I guess that's what everyone's take is. Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. I'm talking about Shane Gillis because I have a family friend who's friends with a family friend of his, and I was able to get in contact with the man himself, the big dog, and he will be calling in later on the show. We're going to set up a FaceTime for him, and we're just waiting on a text back from him. So are you guys excited? I think that'll be a fun one for everyone just joining us. Maybe you've never heard of this show before. This is going to be a good introduction to you, but until he calls in, we're going to do the show like normal, and I'll keep you updated with the text and stuff. I got his phone number. Okay, I don't have his phone number, but we follow each other on Twitter. So we've been DMing back and forth on X, as I should say. I shouldn't defend Elon Musk and then still dead name his company. That would be rude of me. We DM on X. But until then, I'm not going to make the whole episode about how excited I am for Shane Gillis to come on. That'll just be boring. So I'm just going to do the episode as normal and keep my phone by my side here so we know what's happening. But what do I have in terms of real stuff for the episode that I can show you guys? I think I have this. Speaking of comedians, do you guys know Mr. Nate Bargatze? He's another one of the most famous comics right now, one of the best-selling comics. I do want to show you this real quick before we get to Nate. Whoa. We're going to get to Nate. But I need to show you something I did a while ago first for context, okay? This is a video of me from 6 months ago. This was from the old season of Hotel Charlie. And let's skip to about right here. This is a scene of me just complaining about things that I didn't understand. I'm going to give you a refresher just to show you what it was. So Adam's pissed me off. The second thing I'm confused about, I still don't understand, is gravity. So Isaac Newton invented gravity, right? We're all on the same page. This is important. He was sitting under a tree, reading a book, writing in his diary, and an apple fell on his head. Okay, gravity. Great. I was a lot more of a slow talker back then. The Earth is spinning so fast that it sucks everything in. And I've seen this on small scales, like when you're on that ride at the circus or the carnival or the fair. All right, that it spins you around super fast and you get sorry about this, guys. Wall, right? Centripetal force. I'm trying to explain gravity to you. Whatever it is. Centrifuge, I'm guessing, has something to do with that word. Breaks off a tree, it falls. But riddle me this. Here. This is important. How does gravity get in my house? I get how, is it like oxygen? Like I get, if my house was a vacuum and there was no air in here and I opened the front door with all my might in a weird vacuum, I opened the door, all the air would get sucked into my house. This is a good point. All the nooks and crannies of my entire home. I understand that. Is that how gravity works? My question, basically, before we have to sit and this guy copyright claims, man, my question on this episode was, how does gravity work? How does gravity get into my house? Because I have a roof on my house. How does it get in? I don't understand it. I'm used to it. I get that if I drop this pen, I said this exactly in that episode, that it will fall. But I don't get how it goes through my ceiling. Now, to Nate Bargatze. To Mr. Nate Bargatze.
Shut up.
Let me show you this real quick. So he did a podcast a month ago, and I saw a clip of it, and I was reminded of something I said 6 months ago. This, of course, is Nate. He does a podcast called the Nate Land Podcast. He's the most rich and famous comedian of all time, maybe. He makes like $50 million a year touring. And this is how his mind works.
Come on.
Did you guys
Let's see.
You agree, though.
You do agree that they...
I don't know.
Should have gone to the right time, I guess.
Oh, I have no idea.
1 minute.
There's nothing else.
1 minute.
And you're,
Take your
so you're you take inside
Gravity, they're just...
Okay.
and would that...
So I told you how I feel about gravity. Sorry, I thought I was set to the right time code there. I wasn't. This is Nate Bargatze.
that not take the air out? Because then you can also... Can you take it where you can then just stand and put gravity inside that thing?
Talking about
But
a
I guess
Or
shuttle.
is it once you get up there, there's no gravity?
They have gravity, they're just not...
These are the
There's-
questions NASA can't even answer.
Well,
yeah.
I guess I don't understand the question.
That's a good answer for someone that doesn't. So
Let's hear
you got
Let's
no
hear what he
gravity.
says. This
So once you go to
genius
space,
comedian.
you're floating,
Mhm.
right?
Okay, yeah.
You're just
I have
floating
that
around. You're flying.
Yeah.
Well, they fly inside the spaceship,
Yeah.
but if they were on the ground, they don't. They stand in the spaceship. They sit. They don't float
On Earth?
on Earth.
Yeah.
Let's hear him
So
out.
when they get to the space,
Yeah.
you're always having to float.
Yeah.
You never get the gravity never comes into play. So I'm saying, can you do something where you press
Bear
a
with
button and you go, everything falls to the ground?
No.
Like add gravity to
no,
this
no,
Yeah.
thing.
no, they can't. They can't.
If you're floating,
But how does the air not? So then, because air
Here-
can't
here
get
we
in
go.
there, but gravity can get inside the ship.
Well, gravity's not like something that comes in through a leak in the space shuttle.
It
It's
Gravity's
something
pretty
that's-
finicky at times because balloons.
Are you
can
guys
float
hearing
pretty
this?
Good, but leaves get pulled down.
Mr. Nate Bargatze, he's worth $100 million, wants to start his own amusement park called Nate Land, does a podcast of the same name. Sorry if that took a while to get to those points. Mr. Nate Bargatze asked the same exact theoretical question as a guy like me, saying, hey, I get that NASA has figured this out, but can someone actually explain to me how gravity gets inside a spaceship? You're floating around up in space, but then when you drop down to Earth, then the spaceship knows to hold you down in your seat. The same way I ask, hey, I get how gravity fills up my house, maybe if my roof falls off. But when I put my roof on it, how does it get in there? And my question to you people who respond, hey, gravity comes from the core of the earth and pulls you in, I go, well, I got a floor, I got a cement foundation. How does it get in through the floor? Maybe there's some cracks here. I don't see any. I've got a carpeted floor. There's no cracks in a carpet. I guess my point of that is, it's an honor, Mr. Nate Bargatze. Thank you for joining the show and stealing my ideas. Psych. Psych, psych, psych. Watch your back, Nate Bargatze. That's a joke. This is a joke. I shouldn't have played that gun sound and said watch your back. But maybe we can do a Joe Rogan, Carlos Mencia, topical reference, sort of thing here where we all dive bomb in his kamikaze ourselves in his comment section and say, hey, Nate, great idea with the whole gravity thing. Are you aware that you stole that from the Harrison Brinker show, which is now known as Hotel Charlie, from a video from 6 months ago? And in fact, I'm a little offended, by the way. I'll cut the crap. Let me say this. I've talked on episodes before saying, hey, famous comedians aren't any funnier than regular people, but they're famous, so you just laugh because they're famous. And I've said, my point that I've given to that is, for example, if I said the same jokes word for word as Bill Burr, you wouldn't laugh at me, but you laugh at Bill Burr, which is proof you're just laughing because he's famous. And people go, no, it's not that. He just has a funny way of saying it and yada, yada. Jerry Seinfeld was actually the funny one. It wasn't Larry David. All this stuff. I want to set the record straight here. I posted that as a TikTok, whatever it was 8 months ago. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Let me see if I can find that TikTok. Let's load it. I know a lot of you are bored. But riddle me this, Brainiacs. How does gravity get in my house? Well, I don't understand. Anyway, all the comments on that are going, this guy will be mind-blown when he discovers magnets. Gravity is a theory, hasn't been proved. This idiot thinks walls in a roof stop gravity. A lot of mean comments. Negative times a negative makes a positive. Turn around. Why am I looking forward? A lot of these people coming for my neck, yo. Making fun of me in the comments because I was the one guy who stood up in front of the mob and said, hey, mob, you might be scary with your pitchforks and your science, but I don't get it. And their first reaction, instead of hearing me out as scientists taking in new information, they just yell at me and call me stupid. But then a man like Nate Bargatze goes onto his podcast and says the exact same thing, but now with a Tennessee accent, saying, hey, how come air can't get into a spaceship, but gravity can? That was George Bush, really. Then everyone in the comments goes, another genius comedy moment from Nate Bargatze. Oh, yeah, by the way, the guy who said that earlier, he's just stupid. He's not funny. He wasn't doing a bit. Nate Bargatze's doing a bit. He's hilarious. We should pay him $50 million a year. Again, to wrap this up, I guess my point is, can I start getting the recognition I deserve around here? Coming up with genius bits months before famous headlining comedians like Nate Bargatze? I don't do stand-up. I talk on a talk show. Do I need to get famous before I can say any of these ideas? Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to do a whole podcast based on funny things I come up with in my head, then get famous, and then go repeat them once I'm famous so that people think they're actually funny now? I could do stand-up right now. Here, I'll read you my stand-up bits that you aren't going to think are funny because I'm not famous yet. For instance, I gotta calm down. Speaking of stand-up work, very excited for Shane Gillis to come. But in the meantime, I will show you some of my stand-up. I'm very curious about liberals. Liberals. You know why? Because liberals are very pro-immigration. They say immigration's our strength. They're very happy. They say it boosts the economy. If you're a Trump guy who liked an Instagram post about ICE coming to your town, you're a Nazi, you're a racist. Liberals like immigration. Liberals also are pro-environmentalism. And that's why, at least if you live in the northeast part of the country like I do, you know when you see a spotted lanternfly on a hike or at work or in a parking lot, you're supposed to stomp on it. I was hanging out with a liberal girl recently. She was talking all about how much she loves immigration, and then she sees a spotted lanternfly on the ground, and she goes up and she kills it. She murders it. She stomps on it. I go, ho, ho, ho. I thought you were pro-environment. Why'd you go and kill that bug? And she goes, oh, it's because it's from another country. Go, well, that's pretty rich coming from the pro-immigration side. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I bombed that bet. I just think that's a funny concept. The idea of liberals being pro-environment, pro-immigration, but then also killing bugs because they're bad for the environment. Not hearing out anyone's claims for the alternative. But I guess it'd be different if spotted lanternflies were doing jobs Americans didn't want to do. All right, everybody, how was that? See, now, was that funny or was that boring because I'm not famous? Or was it just bad because I did it poorly? I don't know what to tell you. We'll have Shane come in and talk about that. I am excited for that. I actually keep talking about it. I shouldn't be talking about it because I'm going to just hype myself up, and I don't want to do that. What else do we have? Speaking of politics, immigration and whatnot, did you guys see this back in the day?
Good evening, my fellow Americans. Now, before I begin, I reiterate.
This is from like 10 years ago. This is a Key and Peele sketch where Jordan Peele plays Obama, Keegan-Michael Key plays an Obama translator. Obama was so calm, cool, and collected, except for when he was bombing Syrian weddings. It was only a matter of time before some comic comes by and says, hey, what if we pretend to be his anger translator? This is that sketch.
Support for all people and their right to a democratic process.
Hey, all y'all dictators out there, keep messing around and see what happens. Just see what happens. Watch.
We all know the sketch. I'm just showing this to be fun.
Iran and North Korea, we once again urge you to discontinue your uranium enrichment program.
Hey, Mahmoud, Kim Jong, I think I already done told both y'all, 86 your shit, bitches. I'm gonna come over there and do it for y'all.
All right, hilarious. Yeah. Funniest thing we've ever seen in our lives. Obama is the nicest guy in the world. He would never say anything mean. I did see this the other day, and this isn't supposed to always be a political podcast, but I just thought this was a funny connection. Hopefully, I picked a good enough video to explain it. I realized the other day that our Secretary of State, Mr. Marco Rubio,
Donald Trump's not
is Donald Trump's anger translator. That's right, everybody. Donald Trump's anger translator. You guys know the Key and Peele sketch we just watched. That was a hilarious bit. And now here's it happening in real life where Marco Rubio tries to explain Trump's psyche to a news lady because Trump is too hot-headed to be in an interview with a regular lady without, punching her in the face or whatever. So this is from like a month ago. Marco Rubio's talking about the mineral deal that Trump wanted to pull with Zelensky. And instead of yelling, like you guys all saw the meeting, Trump and Zelensky, he calls him a bitch or whatever. You don't have the cards. You don't have the cards. Whatever. It was on SNL. You all saw it. Republicans saw it on Fox News. Liberals saw it on SNL. We're all on the same page here. Anyway, here's Marco Rubio converting Trump's anger into English.
President Trump's not the kind of person that's going to sit there and take that. He's very transparent. He's going to tell you exactly how he feels. And he sent a message that he's not going to get gamed here. He's willing to work on peace because he cares about Ukraine. And he hopes Zelensky will be a partner in that and not someone who's out there putting this sort of counter messaging to try to, hustle us in that regard. That's not going to be productive here.
What's the time?
So can someone please edit this together like a sketch? Jimmy Kimmel would always do this, or maybe he still does. I haven't watched that hippie in years. Can someone please edit this where Trump is talking to Zelensky about the mineral deal and then calling him an idiot and a tard and whatever else he calls him, and then immediately adjacent to that, what's that called? Juxtaposed with this Marco Rubio interview with what's her name? Catherine Herridge. So take the clip with Zelensky and Trump and then cut it back and forth with this where Marco Rubio tries to explain it. I think that's gold. I just don't have it in me to do it myself. Even though that's probably my one step away from fame that I'm just ignoring. I'm like, that'd be funny, but who cares? I'll let somebody else do that. But when you see that on the news or when you see that in 6 months on Nate Bargatze's podcast, make sure to come crawling back to me, the guy who came up with the idea to begin with. Right, Nate? Are you going to give me some credit here? Anybody? I don't know why comedians hate stealing jokes, by the way. I steal jokes all the time. The jokes my grandfather tells me, the jokes my dad tells me. I go out and repeat them. Norm Macdonald had a great joke I use all the time. Someone says, hey, I lost 15 pounds. Are you happy for me? I go, hey, you wouldn't lose 15 pounds if you were at a British casino. Or something like that. It's something about pounds. Anyway, speaking of Trump, I wanted to show you this. This is all old news now. Obviously, I hate when news happens on Sunday because it'll be another week before I get to show it off on the show. But this was a video we all saw yet again with our favorite on the show, Mr. Donald Trump. Do I even have any Trump sounds here? I don't think so. I have this.
Keep yapping, man.
That's Biden. That's pretty close. That was his predecessor. We all know this clip. I just want to show it off for a second.
Impressed by that. Mr. President, walk us through the tariffs.
Mr. President, obviously you're concerned.
Trump gets hit in the
You're
face.
concerned about the situation.
Trump gets hit in the face with a boom mic. That's hilarious. Let me fix my hair here before I get called a girl. Let's watch that again. Trump gets hit in the face with a boom mic, and he makes the cutest face ever after.
Impressed
it's hilarious.
by that. Mr. President, walk us through the tariffs.
Mr. President, obviously you're concerned.
Oh, you.
You're concerned about the situation in Gaza.
Just looking at her like,
what are the hopes now?
I've killed 3 people today, right?
She just became a big story tonight.
Sorry, I can't even focus on the question. I'm so irritated by that woman. That reminded me of a scene we all know and love, a show we all know and love. I was watching this the other day, this Trump video, and I was reminded of a hilarious scene, very, very similar in the episode, or in an episode of Sopranos. Let's watch this. This is after Junior Soprano is on his trial. He's walking out of the courthouse, and you'll see what happens.
With testimony detailing misuse of joint fitted 401k funds. Your reaction?
No comment.
Mr. Soprano, Allison Pack, Channel 6.
Allison,
Is that not the exact same thing? Come on. Here, this is the episode today. The episode is called 100 Jokes I'm Giving Away for Free. If any Sopranos fan pages want to post this video, I say act fast. You know, the news cycle goes through. It's 24 hours. You know, you're a day late and $1 short. All of a sudden, you're old news. If someone hasn't put this together already, take the clip of Junior Soprano, Corrado Soprano, getting hit in the face with a boom mic and falling down the stairs, and then put it right next to Trump getting hit in the face with a microphone. I mean, that's gold. That's comedy gold. Trust me, I've written for Nate Bargatze, and I've watched a ton of Bill Burr, and we will be having Shane Gillis on the show a little later, and I'm very excited for that. Real quick, we have to take a short break, only because my hair is pissing me off. All right, I'm back. Better than ever. I look so much more handsome. I just took a shower before I filmed this. Conditioner, shampoo makes my hair so dry, and I didn't feel like putting much of grease in it because I've gotten comments before that I look like I'm sweating. So I decided to go raw dog without a hat on. But then by the time we're 25 minutes into the episode, my hair looks a little dry. It's starting to take form around the headphones like a tree wrapping itself around an old fence post. So I'm just going to subdue that, or whatever the word would be, put a hat on right now. I just showed you a clip of Mr. Junior Soprano, Uncle Junior, coming out of his trial, and I think it leads perfectly into my next segment, which is I would be a terrible judge. I do a lot of self-reflecting. I don't have a job, so a lot of my day is just me sitting around on the couch, whether I have my phone with me or not. I do a lot of internal thinking. I'm very prolific. And I've noticed one thing about myself, and that is that I tend to believe whatever people tell me. So if someone sits down and says, hey, Joe Biden is really good, he did this, this, and this, all of a sudden I go, I love Joe Biden. And then 2 days later, I'm the biggest Biden fan. I bought a bunch of Biden shirts. I've got his coffee mugs. Some Republican guy comes up to me and goes, Joe Biden stinks. Trump is actually the guy who did this and this and this. And I go, wow, you make a great point. I guess I love Trump. So I flip-flop back and forth. Don't worry, I'm not one of those people who votes, so I'm not impacting your life much. But I'll admit that, yes, I do tend to be gullible most of the time, which is why I think I'd be a terrible judge. Because if I was sitting on the stand with a big robe on and maybe even a wig and a gavel, and the lawyer of the culprit, the suspect, is talking to me saying, hey, judge, hear me out. My guy couldn't have done this. He has a good heart. I go, wow. I'm touched. He probably does have a good heart. And then the prosecutor, the district attorney, the assistant DA starts spewing nonsense. But after a moment, I hear him out and he goes, no, he actually did do this. We have footage of him. We have texts from him saying he wanted to kill his wife. He kidnapped his children only 6 months ago. Who's to say he wouldn't have done it again? Clearly, here his motive was he wanted to be with his kids and his wife was getting in the way. I hear that. I go, okay, I'm on this guy's side now. My needle is going back and forth. It's like a fat guy standing on a scale and taking his foot off every couple of minutes just to see how much lighter he would get. Has it ever happened that a fat guy's so ashamed of his weight, he just cuts his legs off and goes, hey, I just lost 100 pounds. Here's something about legs real quick before we get into judges and why I would be a terrible judge. This is something that's obvious. And when I say obvious, I mean obvious. But I don't think about it a lot, and it wasn't until someone said it out loud that it finally occurred to me like, oh yeah, that is weird. And that is that your legs are half of your body. You just know your brain's up here, your eyes are here, your mouth is here. All your senses are, if you put your hands like this, are pretty much all in the same place. Your heart's right here, your lungs, that's what you need to breathe. Your stomach's right here, your butt's pretty close to your waist. Everything important is right here. So you kind of just take for granted that everything you need is right in this box. And the rest of your body, flip your torso over, that makes your legs. The rest of your body is just your legs. All the important, here, I'll stand up for a second. You might be thinking, hey, my brain's up here, that's all I need. Who cares what's downstairs? But if you really think about it, the rest of your body is just your legs. The whole point of these is just so you can move around. There's no organs in here that help with anything, unlike your chest. So that's something that maybe I'm helping you guys out with today. You might be hearing this and going, oh, I never really thought about that either, that my legs do nothing, but they're half of my body. Huh, interesting. Anyway, back to being a judge. I've talked about this before that I pretty much follow any conspiracy theory that sounds 1% believable. I pretty much just stick right to it. Like if you say, hey, P. Diddy's on trial, innocent till proven guilty, but here are the claims against him. I go, oh, he was having parties. He bought a bunch of lubricant. Justin Bieber probably got sexually assaulted. Yeah, sounds about right. I mean, you said it. You said it very officially. I have no choice but to believe you. Oh, Dan Schneider, although there hasn't been any proof in court that he's done any of these things. I don't know if that's even true. He might have gone to court, but for the sake of the argument, Dan Schneider, we claim he's done all these things. He's a pervert. He's got a foot fetish. He was in children's TV. That's kind of already crazy. And we have a feeling that he's a predator. I go, say no more. That sounds right to me. Yeah. Dan Schneider's a pedophile. Dan Schneider might not be a pedophile, and he's sitting in his house with a gun in his mouth going, I really wish people stopped making documentaries about me. I just liked making funny shows. It made me a lot of money. Meanwhile, everyone on the news is going, Dan Schneider, the rapist, pedophile. And I'm just following suit. I'm going, yeah, he probably is a rapist and a pedophile. Hell if I know, but it's more interesting than if he's just a good guy, right? Like Harvey Weinstein. We're like, ooh, Harvey Weinstein's a rapist and a sexual predator? Oh, okay. Well, that's more interesting than just being a boring producer. So at least we have a news story now. I do believe the stuff about Bill Cosby. I'll say that. I believe all these, actually. I'm saying it makes it sound like I don't believe him. I'm just going along with him for fun. Like the whole Joe Biden e-signature thing, and Trump wants to reverse the pardons Joe Biden wrote right before he left office. And now people are coming out and going, oh, if you look at the signatures, they're all identical. That's fishy. And then Trump, within 2 days, is like, hey, we're going to overturn those. I'm like, well, this is happening very fast. And I know that everyone above me is smart, and everyone in Washington is the smartest person in the world. So if they're going to overturn it, it must be true. Don't worry, it's not all Republican mumbo jumbo. I'm on the same side as you with all. What was that guy's name? Matt Gaetz wanted to have sex with a young girl and cross state lines. I'm like, hey, if you say it in a news headline, I'm listening and I'm all ears and I'm with you. So that, I think, is why I would make a bad judge, because anytime an innocent guy was put in jail, it'd be me locking the door and throwing away the key, because I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry, but the fact that you're even in court makes it seem like you had something to do with this. I don't know what to tell you. Can you do that as a judge, by the way? Like, well, I guess, I don't know. I was going to say, if the jury all agrees that the guy is innocent, can you overstep your bounds and go, right, but I'm the judge? Is the whole point of the judge just to sentence the guy? Because we're leaving it up to these 12 random people, which, hey, that's America. That's fine. I'm fine with that. But what's the point of the judge? Like, everyone's like, hey, this guy killed and ate people. We're going to sentence him, or we're going to say he's guilty. And then the judge goes, I mean, if you think he's guilty, I guess we should put him away for life. It's like, did we need to pay a judge? Did that guy need to go through hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to law school and then judge school? Did we need to waste all that money and time just for you to tell us, yeah, the cannibal should be getting a life sentence? Like, yeah, why don't the 12 people come up with the sentence? You come up with you all have to agree that he's guilty, but then after that, if you all think he committed a terrible crime, you should be able to agree somewhat about the sentencing. I am anti-prison sentencing, other than like murder and kidnapping and all the very, very bad ones. But if you're like stealing a guy's bike, I think you should be put in jail for like maybe a month. I think a lot of people have no reference of how long like 15 years in prison means. It's like when you say, oh, $1 million is a lot. And then you think about 2 million and you go, well, 2 million is just 2 millions. But you're getting hung up on the number 2 and you think, well, 2 is low. But it's like, well, no, a million, getting $1 million was hard. Now you have to do that again and get 2 million. But you're going, oh, well, it's the number 2, so it's easy because it's so low. I think that's what people think about when they sentence people to prison. They're going, you stole a candy bar? Yeah, lock them up for 3 years and then give them 10 years of probation. It's like 3 years. You know what 3 years? 3 years is high school for people like me who skipped a grade. That's a very long time. I think everyone other than murderers should get everyone should have a standard 6 months in prison, no matter what your crime was, and then murderers go away for life, and maybe every 10 years we kind of check in and be like, are you still murdering people? Are you still a bad guy? Are you still dropping soap on purpose? maybe I'd be a good judge. I guess that's what I should say. I just came up with that whole idea that just fixed all the recidivism and big words on this show today. Big dogs on this show today. We're excited. I won't even say it again, but you all know what I'm talking about. We have a special guest coming on. I'm excited for that. I haven't gotten a text yet, but I'm keeping hopeful. It's like these job interviews I've been applying for and just not hearing anything back. I'm like, maybe I'm naive, but I'm just waiting for that. Maybe that guy was busy today. Maybe his phone died. So I feel about job interviews, and I feel the same way about Shane Gillis. This episode might boost my career. But in the meantime, we'll switch. Another thing I wanted to talk about and complain about on today's episode was slang for the female body. The female body parts, for example, or most importantly, what am I trying to say? What I'm trying to say is, I want to talk about slang for vagina. Vagina. This might be my most sexist segment yet, and I've had a lot. But for whatever reason, most slang that people come up with for the word vagina, because it's uncomfortable to say vagina, makes me uncomfortable. And I can't help but think that it stems from how many slang words men have for their penis. There's wiener, boner, schlong, cock, balls, dick. We heard them all. And they're all funny. That's the thing about guys. All the guy slang for penises are funny. I don't know if we just both equally said, hey, we'll come up with a penis and schlong and wiener. And then all the girls were like, well, we'll come up with ours. And I'll get into them later. Or if women got jealous that guys had such funny words for their private parts and then went, well, we'll come up with some. And then came up with these. Because these all stink. For example, I'm going to read them off to you here. These are the slang words I hate for the word vagina. Cooter. Coochie. Hoo-ha. There's more, but I'll stop right there. Can we all just take those in? Cooter, coochie, and hoo-ha. Those all just make me sick. And it's not out of any sort of weird sexual thing where it's like, oh, I can't even imagine a vagina. It makes me sick. It's like, no, I just call it a vagina. Or come up with a cool name for it. But hoo-ha? Hoo-ha? Are we not acknowledging how cringy and weird it is to be like, oh, sorry, I just bumped my hoo-ha. Oh, I got a pimple on my hoo-ha. Like, just say vagina. Flower, foo-foo, bits, or lady bits. Those are the same thing. I don't like those. Bajingo, vajayjay, I hate. I hate the word vajayjay. It's just like, okay, we're not trying to bedazzle vagina and like make it cool to say. Like, it's not like schlong or wiener makes it like cool to say penis. In fact, penis is fine on its own. But vajayjay is like, okay, are we trying to like have champagne with this thing? It's not supposed to be like a cool, we're having a disco party down at the vajayjay. You're talking about your crotch here. People, ladies, women, men, whoever is talking about this stuff. And last but not least, I hate the word pussy. When it comes to referring to a woman's genitals, I'll talk about a guy and say like, oh, that guy's a real pussy. Quit being a pussy. Oh, you're a little pussy. I'll say that. But then if someone on a movie or in a book or one of my friends is talking, he's like, oh, yeah, man, this girl had a great pussy. I'm like, ew, why are you saying that? That's weird. That's disgusting. That's gross. Don't ever talk about sex to your friends. That's another stance we have on this show. In order to tide you guys over and prove maybe I'm not sexist, I want to talk about some slang for vagina that doesn't bother me. For example, and maybe these are fun. These are what I think are funny. And I'll say this. If my theory was correct and the slang for vagina I just read was just in response to men having so many slang words for their genitals, then shouldn't you be worried about which ones men think are funny? And I'm a man, and these are the ones I think are funny. Beaver, clam, box, snatch, muff, downstairs, fanny, vag, and vagine. Now, vagine is close. It's a close call, but I'm going to kick it over to the cool side for right now. I think that one's funny. as most things go on this show, I can't explain why. It's a gut feeling why. I'm sure if I did the self-reflecting I was talking about earlier, I could sit down and come up with a big, long scientific paper and explanation on why these ones are gross and these ones are fine. But for right now, I don't know why. I'm just going off my gut, and my gut tells me that vagine is funny and hoo-ha and vajayjay are just weird. It's weird. I think part of it too is because that's like a word people grew up saying, because you can't say vagina in your house if you're a young girl because it's rude. So you have to come up with a word like hoo-ha or lady bits. And now when you say hoo-ha as a 23-year-old woman, I go, oh, you sound like an 8-year-old talking about a vagina. I don't want to go anywhere near that. At least if you say beaver and clam, I'm like, okay, that's kind of a sense of humor. You wouldn't say that to a kid. So that's funny. It's like the C word or the word twat. Like, it's still kind of weird, but at least I know it's not kids who are saying that word. Although that doesn't explain why I think the word wiener is funny, because that's what I called mine, still do, as a child. And I don't associate with that any sort of children, penis, whatever. I don't associate those things. I just think it's funny. So I really tried to self-reflect there, and I got about halfway before I contradicted myself again, which is usually how this show goes. I mean, as I've said before, I'm a terrible judge. But that was that segment. Do you guys agree with me? Does anyone else feel this way? I've thought that for years. I've always thought the hoo-ha and vajayjay and coochie are just like, ew, what are we talking about here? I don't like that at all. Yeah, gross. Oh. What do we have next up on the show? This is just a quick rant. As I mentioned before, I went to film school. And with that comes being friends with a lot of nerds and a lot of people who think they're funny and creative who really aren't. Some of your classmates are going to be people who thought that this was an easy way to get a degree. Don't get me wrong, it is. But if that's the reason you're going to college, is to just get an easy degree so you pick film and your heart's not in it, don't get me wrong, it's easy, but you're not going to be good at it. Like, yeah, you'll get an A in every one of your classes, but anytime you do a group project and you just try to, like, work on something with your friends, you're going to be the guy who no one wants to talk to because you don't actually know what you're doing here. You're just getting an A because everyone's getting an A. For example, I had a kid in my one class. He got chosen to direct a short film, and I was an editor, so I was in his group to edit his movie. And he came up with a movie about angels in purgatory, deciding on whether or not people who just died get to go to heaven or hell. And I asked him where he came up with this idea for a movie, which is already like, I'm sure there's books in the Bible about this. Like, this is a tale as old as time. So this guy is 2022, and he goes, hey, I came up with a movie. It's about angels picking if you get to go to heaven and hell. I'm like, oh, geez, where'd you come up with that idea, genius? And he goes, oh, I saw it in a movie. I go, what do you mean? He's like, oh, there's a movie that's about this plot I'm talking about, and I just thought we could just do that for the project. Go, dude, are you stupid? Give me any idea. I'll come up with a movie. It might be bad, but at least it's original. I had another friend, a similar story. Speaking of Key and Peele, he literally said, hey, I want to film sketches with you. I think the first one we should do is the Key and Peele sketch where they misunderstand each other's text messages. I'm like, dude, I thought you wanted to film sketches and like write them ourselves. I've got 15 written on my computer right now. He goes, no, I think it'd be cool if we started with Key and Peele sketches because we know they're funny. Go. You're not going to make it far in this business, my friend. Look at me. I haven't made it far, but at least Nate Bargatze has taken my jokes. Am I right, guys? Anyway, that's not what I wanted to talk about. What I wanted to talk about is I met these people. Half the time, they're not interesting or they're not funny, but they're in the classes, same as me, so I have to give them respect. What ends up happening inevitably is we talk about television shows we like, and I'll give them the bullshit like, yeah, I mean, The Office is funny, but I think it's annoying. I think Always Sunny is good, but I think it's gone on for a little too long. Rob McElhenney starting a podcast with Charlie Day and Glenn Howerton kind of peeled the curtain back a little too much, and now I see how funny they think they are, and I really don't like it. And when I say that, I'm only talking about Rob McElhenney. Charlie Day and Glenn Howerton seem funny, but Rob McElhenney started talking about making It's Always Sunny, just made it too scientific and analytical and mathematical, and it took all the fun out. So that kind of made me turn my back on It's Always Sunny. Anyway, I gave them the runaround about like, oh, these are the shows and the movies I like. Yeah, it's all the same old crap. But one show that I never mentioned and that was honestly brought up probably 100 times that I had to watch. It's so funny. You have to watch it. Oh, you like It's Always Sunny? You know what you would love? Shameless. That's right. Everybody in film school and everyone who thinks they're funny watches the show Shameless. And I can't help it. And believe me, I've tried to watch it. I have TikTok. So anytime there's a movie clip, 1 in 5 clips is a Shameless clip. And it's viral. And I can't help but think it's just because it says fuck and shit and talks about sex. Like the one story is the girl, Felina or whatever her name is, Fiona. She works at a grocery store and the boss is making the employees give them blowjobs in order to keep their jobs. And I'm like, this only makes sense in like a writer's head. Like, I'm sure there's been stuff like that happening. You know, it's Harvey Weinstein or whatever. Like, certainly people have exploited women sexually to give them jobs. I get it. I'm not stupid. But the idea that it's like, oh yeah, then you know how the Shameless family, everything's always bad, and everything bad's always happening to them, and the guy from the Bear is always oversleeping through his alarm and missing tests. Well, the sister, last week she got her laundromat ripped off, and now this week she has to have sex with her boss. I'm like, what world are we living in? This is weird. And I get it's TV and it's written, but something about it just seems like if having gone to school with writers, I guess is my point. I can see through the show and see the guy writing that and patting himself on the back going, he's going to wear a shirt that says, fuck you, you fucking fuck. And I'm like, but for some reason people watch that and go, oh, it's hilarious. It's so cutting edge. It's so edgy. It's so funny. It gets away with things I've never seen before. I go, why? Because they say the C word, because they're dirty, because they make offensive jokes. Like, just saying cock isn't enough for me to go, oh, this show's taking risks. Maybe it's because podcasts are so popular now and you actually can see like your favorite comedian, how he actually talks, and because they're uncensored, like you hear the F word and the C word and the D word and the H word, you hear them so often that you're kind of immune to them. I bet it was different back in the 60s, whenever the first song came out that said the F word. I bet everybody was up in arms going, oh my God, did you hear the Kinks? Did you hear Louie Louie? Someone said they might have said the F word when the guy drops his drumstick in the song Louie Louie. Can you believe that? But nowadays, everyone says the F word in their songs, and if you get Sirius XM radio with promo code Charlie, everyone can hear swear words on the radio. So that's how I feel about Shameless. Like, Shameless would be funny or cutting edge if it came out in 1980 when TV wasn't like that. But it's 2020 when the show was still on, and you're going, ooh, what really is cool about our show is that it's about like debauchery and it talks about sex and we have characters whose shirts say the F word on them. It's like, okay, yeah, that's funny 30 years ago, but nowadays you can call an old woman the C word in real life and it's not news. So no one cares that you're saying the F word. I talked about this last week, that the idea of like using the F word in music or even in movies is just rubs me the wrong way. If you only say it a couple times, like if you use the F word in the chorus, I'm like, oh. Like Messy by Lola Young. She's like, I'm too fucking clean. I'm like, oh, you thought it was so cool to put the F word in your chorus, didn't you? But if it's a song like a rap song where every other word is F, I'm like, oh, that's just how the guy talks. Or if it's a show like Shameless or I don't know. I don't know where I'm going. I guess my point is I hate Shameless. And people might love Shameless and they'll comment below and go, well, if you hate it so much, just don't watch it. Okay, first of all, I don't watch it, but I still can hate it. It's like, oh, I hate Trump. I didn't vote for Trump. I hate Trump. It's like, okay, well then just don't look at his Fox News stuff. And you go, yeah, but it's around me. He's the president. That's how I feel about Shameless. I go, I hate Shameless. Oh, then don't watch him. Like, well, every time I scroll on Instagram, I get a Shameless clip popping up and I got Jeremy Allen White picking his nose and people are supposed to go, how clever. This shows how the real humans are like. Some people have douchebags for dads. Oh, this guy's an alcoholic. Oh, how cutting edge. Please leave me alone. I hate that stuff. And I feel the exact same way about The Boys. I feel like The Boys is only popular because it swears, and the whole gimmick is like, dude, you know how Batman and Superman are like cool? Yeah, but what if they use the F word? Would you say that to a DC fan? He goes, Batman would never use a gun. Batman would never kill anybody. But then you show him The Boys, and he goes, dude, Homelander uses laser eyes to, like, blow up a guy's head. Isn't that amazing? I go, what? Who cares? You're watching a movie that was written by just a nerd who went, dude, it'd be so badass if Homelander was, like, angry at Duplicate and then, like, laser beam shot out of his eyes and he killed a guy. It's just weird to me to find that, like, hilarious. Oh, a superhero that swears, how funny. Even when what's his name, Chris Pratt uses the F word in the new Guardians of the Galaxy 3, he goes, hey, open the fucking door. And then I think people were like, oh, dude, Chris Pratt just said the F word in a Marvel movie. Is that cool? It's a kid's movie. You're showing kids the F word? Where have we gone as a society? And I swear like a sailor with ketamine in his system. I don't mind swear words, but when it's in a movie and it's supposed to be like a cool thing, that's where I draw the line. I don't swear to be cool. I swear just because that's how I talk. I'm sorry, that's just how I talk. But I'm not ever going to be under the impression that if I say the F word enough on this show, people will think I'm cool. But that is how writers feel. And you know how I know that? Because I went to school with them, and that's how they think. They go, oh, it's funny if poop is on the wall. What if the guy like was in prison and he drew a picture with his own shit? That'd be funny. I go, have you ever met anyone funny? Have you ever heard a joke in your life? How'd you grow up and be 23 and still think like a poop joke is funny? Unless it's genius. Like Louis C.K. warming you up for 10 minutes thinking a woman's about to give birth and die. But in reality, she just had to fart. If you've seen Louis, you know what I'm talking about. Like, that's a funny fart joke. These jokes do exist. There are times to use the F word, but I'm not watching Shameless because they talk about sex. I'm not watching The Boys because they show blood and say the F word. I'm like, dude, I'll literally sit down and watch live leak videos of ISIS beheading videos. The Boys, Seth Rogen writing a show where some guy gets his head exploded doesn't entice me. It doesn't make me go, ooh, oh my stars, oh my heavens. Meanwhile, I'll say that though, and the critics or the people who love the show will go, oh, this guy's pearl clutching. This guy's like an old white conservative lady, an old waspy lady who can't handle the F word or gore. I'm like, no, dude, I say dirty words. I watch murder videos on Reddit. I have no problem with blood and gore and swear words. It's when you do it that it bothers me. Does anyone else agree that Shameless and The Boys are annoying? I guess that's all I got. But we will take one break for a quick second so we can wrap up the show. All right. In honor of Mr. Shane Gillis joining us on today's podcast, and I haven't heard back from him yet, but I'm sure it's inevitable. I told him that we'd be recording here now. I guess there's a time difference. All right, whatever. I don't want to worry about that. I wanted to show you what I said earlier, that today's episode is going to be all jokes that you could have for free. Maybe all these things. Maybe in 5 years, Nate Bargatze or Shane Gillis or Bill Burr is going to be talking about The Boys or talking about Shameless and saying, how come nobody realized at the time how stupid and cringy that show was? It's brutal. You can all look back and go, yeah, Harrison talked about that on season 2, episode 15 of Hotel Charlie. Been there, done that, Bill. I'm going to read through my notes here of some comedy ideas I have. And I will say these are all for free, but please give me credit. All I ask for is credit. It's like a non-copyright music, but you still have to link the guy's SoundCloud in your description. This isn't really stand-up. These are just funny ideas I have. For instance, Mr. Nate Bargatze ripping me off on his own podcast. Just had to burp. Giving someone a big bill at a store and they check if it's counterfeit, like they hold it up to the light. Here, I'll do this, all right? Let's act it out. This isn't even a bill. This is a casino voucher I have for $4. Let's take a dollar bill out. The highest thing I have in here right now is a 5. That's embarrassing. All right, so, okay, we got the watermark. Thanks for the change here. And then they take out a Sharpie or one of the special Sharpies and they draw on it to see if it's counterfeit. The whole time, you guys know what I'm talking about. The whole time that's happening at a store, I'm shaking in my boots going, oh my God, I hope that's not counterfeit. Should I have checked if that was counterfeit before I gave that guy my money? That's pretty much the whole bit. If you want to make a sketch about that or put that in your stand-up, just give me a shout out at the end of the clip and we'll be square. It's funny to hook up with a girl and then follow her on Instagram, and then inevitably, like 6 months later, she has a boyfriend and she posts about her boyfriend, and the whole time you're just looking at her story like, yeah, I fucked that girl. Here's another one. Asperger. Here's a one-liner you can use on Kill Tony. Asperger's is named after the guy who discovered it. Well, it's a good thing that guy didn't discover restaurants. Okay. You have outstanding loans. A banker tells you that you have outstanding loans, and then you just go, oh, thank you. Outstanding. That must be good. What else we got? Imagine hiding your suicide note, but then someone finds it before you die and asks you about it, and you go, oh, that's so embarrassing. You weren't supposed to see that. Barack Obama was the first president to have a BlackBerry. He was also the first BlackBerry to become the president. That's another Kill Tony one for you. What else we got? On Reddit, I won't read that one. My sex life is a Discovery Channel show. I'm naked and she's afraid. I assume you're all laughing as these are happening. Whoops. I don't know how to write this one, but there's something here. My girlfriend said my dick was a joke. Luckily, she can take a joke. Something about that. Or like, hey, if you don't find humor in the small things, we should have sex. I guess that's all. The only other funny story I can think of is dating a teacher. And you're like, your girlfriend's a teacher and you're making out with her in her car. And the whole time you're just thinking, oh, is this what teachers do? Like when I was growing up, I imagine what my teachers did outside of work. The only close thing I got to that was when I saw them at the grocery store. It never crossed my mind. My 24-year-old teacher's probably got a boyfriend and making out with him in the back of a car. Now I am the boyfriend and I go, ooh, is this what teachers do? That's creepy. Ooh. Anyway, we've been here for an hour. I shouldn't have put my phone away. We were waiting on a text from the dog, Mr. Shane Gillis, but we never got one, which is upsetting and embarrassing. But you know what, Shane? If all goes well, in 6 months, I'll be more famous than you anyway. And when you come knocking at my door asking to be on the podcast, I'm going to give you a big N-O, buddy, because you gypped me today, and I'm going to gyp you in 6 months. So sorry to everyone. I guess we'll call it. Sorry to everyone who's waiting around because they wanted to watch Shane Gillis come on the show. Unfortunately, Shane never texted me back. It was a done deal. I was under the impression at least 3 days ago when we talked about it. We had a whole long conversation on the phone saying, yeah, I'll do it. Hey, do you want any money for it? No, man, it's a favor. We have mutual friends, yada, yada, yada. I guess not. So sorry to everyone who watched this episode waiting for Shane Gillis to show up. You and me both, my friend. But from all of us here at Hotel Charlie, if you liked the episode regardless, hey, go ahead and subscribe. It's free. And if you like this episode, there's 14 more just like it and 21 more just like it from last season. We'll see you all next week on episode 16 of Hotel Charlie. Bye. Bye. Shane, we didn't have a contract, so you won't be hearing from my lawyer. But you're dead to me. Nay, Bargatze, please give me some credit next time you steal one of my jokes. I don't ask for much. Bye.